Welcome back to the shop. I don't know, that was weird. Welcome back to the shop. It's been a lot longer than it should have been recently since I last did a video. You guys just watched, literally yesterday, jigs getting made. The outer mold and the radiusing, the fretboard radiusing thing. I have one more jig I've got to make, at least one more jig. I have a jig I need to make that's kind of holding things, not necessarily holding things up, but I'm hitting this point where I've got decisions to make and I haven't made them. And the things I can do, I need jigs for. So I made some jigs, and you saw some of that. But the big one I need is the bending, the side bending machine. So I'm working on that. Morgan has one. And maybe I can get him to bring it over here. I don't know. So anyways, what happens is I've just got sort of waffling on a decision that's keeping me from doing the things I can do right now. I'm waiting for a heating. So, man, I'm jumping around. So for the bending machine, the side bending, the piece I'm holding off for is the heating blanket. And I know the dimensions of the heating blanket, and I can work with that. The problem I have is there's a control box that comes with it. And I want to mount that to the machine somewhere, but I want to get the right dimensions for the control box, and I'd like to have it in my hands to do so. And so I'm kind of stalled on that. Maybe I'll just do one with a box or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll figure something else out. I'm just at this point kind of holding until it gets here. It's just on the slow boat from China. And so that is where that is. So that is where that is. That is. God, I haven't been on camera in like 2 weeks, so I'm kind of messed. Anyway. So the bending machine, I'm kind of waiting for that heating blanket to get here. And maybe I don't need to, but it's a couple of more weeks, should be here, hopefully, but there's no guarantees. So, yeah, so I'm sort of stuck on that one. Otherwise, I could get the sides bent and be done with that. The other thing is, so I've got the book matches for the front and back. They're done. The sides are cut. And the other thing is on the front, I started on the bracing, right? I got all the radiusing done on the bracing. And I was about to glue the bracing on, but I forgot I hadn't done the sound hole on the front. And so that led to, I needed a circle jig, so I made the circle jig for the Bosch Colt. And then I went, oh, I need to do the rosette if I'm going to do a rosette. And I have to decide. And this is a long introduction to what I'm about to talk about. So, the rosette. And not just the rosette, just decoration in general. The binding, the rosette, the what I'm doing on the headstock plate, whether I'm going to bind the fretboard or not, the fretboard inlays, headstock inlays, if any. Like, this is all just sort of, I have to figure out what I'm doing here, and I haven't done that yet. I haven't decided on any of that yet. And I'm kind of annoyed myself. I'm kind of annoyed with myself that I have stalled so much. And I really have. Because I can't bring myself to saw curly maple or whatever into really thin strips, because you lose more with the kerf than you do. You turn more to sawdust than you get in the end, because it's really thin stuff. So I was like, well, I could order purfling from LMI or StuMac or from anywhere. Or I could make my own, which is a wasteful thing. But then I started thinking, I've got this stack of veneer that I bought a while ago, and it was just random. I don't even know if I paid for any of it. I think I might have gotten a lot of it for free. And it's just random bits of small things. And some of it is too pretty to use face-wise. Like, it's like a good example is, this is called plum pudding mahogany. And it's beautiful on the surface. So we're not going to use that for kerfing plus, or for purfling plus. The right stuff for purfling and binding is dense figured things or really plain. So I'm kind of like, what am I going to do for the rosette? What am I going to do for binding and all that. And I thought about this veneer, and I've got this chunk. This is a piece of mahogany, and it's really plain. It's not fancy, and it's thick. It's like almost an 1/8 inch thick. And so I was like, okay, maybe I can apply. So do I want, and then now I'm literally, I haven't looked at this thing in years. So I'm going to dig through this, and dig through this pile and see if there's anything that's possible. And this veneer stuff is really thin, but the idea is I'll build up a few layers of stuff and see if that's going to work for what I'm kind of trying to decide what to do with binding and decoration. So plum pudding mahogany, beautiful stuff. So I've got these guys that are possible, and this bit of mahogany that are possible. Do I want those as my bindings and such? I don't think I do. Yeah, I'm sort of stuck in this. Don't like what I've got on hand, so I may just have to wait a little bit and order something else. That also means, so here's where the pressure situation comes in. I'm out of video for this guitar right now. You've seen all of my footage. This is the newest footage, and it's the only footage I have that it hasn't been published yet, because I'm doing it right now. So I may have a couple of weeks where I'm not posting a video about the guitar, and I kind of feel bad about that. Let's go dig through a little bit more. I have some other stock. I'm going to move my attention away from the bindings and rosette. I have a couple more species. I have a couple of more parts I need to select wood for. Bridge, fretboard, possibly headstock overlay. I've got a piece of ebony for the overlay right now, but since I'm going to figure out, I haven't decided on my fretboard yet, so since I'm going to decide on that, maybe I'll change the headstock as well. I'm not sure. So let's go grab some potential candidates for fretboards and the other pieces that I need, and I'll bring you back. I'm going to start by making sure I have, if I do it, I think I keep getting stuck on whether the headstock, fretboard, and bridge should all match. I think it's more, in my mind, important that the bridge and the headstock match, just to sort of, from a design standpoint, tie things together a little bit. They don't have to, but whatever I use for the bridge, I probably will want to use for the headstock. The fretboard doesn't have to match as much. I've seen them not match. I've seen them match. Like Martin's stuff usually just has a mahogany headstock, no plate over it at all, with an ebony fretboard maybe, or a rosewood fretboard, or many different things. So I don't know if I need, maybe I'm wrong about the headstock and the bridge matching. I think, yeah, I'm sort of waffling, as you can tell, because I have not made up my mind. And I need to make up my mind. Cap, since we haven't seen them in a while, here's my top, or sorry, my back, which is very, very, very figured walnut, claro walnut, and there's a lot of pinks and reds and stuff in it, and it's only going to get more. In fact, allow me to demonstrate. It's going to be awesome, wouldn't you say? I would say. So, excuse me, I want something in keeping with this stuff. So I'm going for something to help with that, or maybe not take away from it, is kind of where I'm at on that. Anyway, so keeping in with that walnut, this ebony could work, but I have some other stuff that could also work just as well. At least there's 4 pieces here I've got that are big enough for a fretboard and also maybe something else. So I've got this, I bought a big old chunk of ebony. It's heavy. Bought this chunk of ebony. I could slice off, you know, a 1/4 inch thick piece and turn it into a fretboard. It's wide enough. It's a little blacker than this stuff is. It's just slightly different. So what that means is I probably wouldn't use this as the headstock plate, and this is too narrow, excuse me, to be my headstock plate. And so it may not work, the two of them. So I'm going to take a little of this. Actually, then again, with a finish, you probably couldn't tell. So I could do ebony fretboard, ebony plate, and there's enough in here I could make the bridge out of as well. Or do I want to try something else? So I've also got, put those aside, that's one choice. I got this Harrison Phipps. You guys remember Harrison Phipps? He gave me a lot of stock. He helped a lot with the 335 build. It also occurred that we got a little trading done that brought this piece of rosewood to me. It's big enough to be a fretboard and also a headstock plate if I were to want to make one out of that, and a bridge. So I could use this as all of the pieces. I could make all three of them match. I could put an ebony headstock plate on there and use a rosewood fretboard. I could do an ebony bridge with a rosewood fretboard. And I'm worried about this guitar sounding too bright, not enough bass, not enough lows, or not enough fullness. So ebony might be too bright for it. Maybe rosewood would be better. So I'm given to understand. Big, and this board is not 1/4 sawn. It'd be a flat sawn board. So I think this makes a bad candidate for a fretboard. It'd be fine for a bridge, I think. Maybe, because I can cut I can cut it this way and get 1/4 sawn out of it that direction in this thickness, because this is wide enough, I think. Yeah, it's over 1.5 inches. So yeah, I'm kind of like, well, I could use this piece of rosewood for my bridge. It's orangey, brownish, less reddish. It's more orange, and this would be the surface we'd see if I used it for the bridge. So I'm not so sure about this one. I bought this piece of wood. I don't know if you'll be able to tell in the camera, but it's called Ziricote, and it's the coolest growth structure I've ever seen. It grows like a marble cake is the only way I can explain it. If you've not seen Ziricote, check out some pictures of it on Hobbit House. But Ziricote has this really cool overlapping grain look, and it's pretty freaking nice looking. And I don't know if you'll be able to see how cool that looks, but it's pretty freaking cool. Oh, we're going the grain direction here. I'm destroying my towel here. But this is a fairly good sized chunk. It's normally hard to keep pretty stable, but it's got that amazing folded over looking stock. So I could use this as a fretboard, and I could also use it as a headstock plate if I were to do so. It's really dense. It's used as a fretboard by some. It's very dense. It's pretty cool looking. The biggest thing I have a problem with for this is that I don't have a lot of it. And it might be a little overpowering for that walnut. I kind of want that walnut to be the gorgeous part. It can be pretty, but it has to be, this is going to be attention getting. And I'm not so certain, I'm not completely decided upon whether its attention getting is what I want exactly. I have a feeling it's going to compete with the walnut. So I'm probably not going to use this. So then we come to this other piece, which is beautiful. This is a piece of rosewood It's a long piece. I've got lots there, and it's thick. I think it's probably a good inch thick. Yeah, that's an inch thick rosewood. It is way redder than this rosewood. Lots and lots of good red in it. And it's just, I don't know, I think it's beautiful. So, look at that. That is really pretty, but not so figured that it would take attention away. I'm leaning heavily towards this one right now, especially now that I've looked at it under wetness. This stuff is amazing looking. So, and it's perfectly quarter sawn all the way down. It's almost absolutely perfect for what I want to do. That was loud. So I'm pretty heavily leaning, yeah, that's all quarter sawn. Really heavily leaning this way. It's wide enough where there's no sapwood. I don't like the sapwood at all. It's a cool contrast, but the board isn't beautiful enough, and there isn't quite enough sapwood to use as a functional part. There's enough here to do all three pieces. Rosewood fretboard, rosewood bridge, rosewood headstock plate, assuming I even want a headstock plate. I think I do. I don't know. I don't really know is the problem. So yeah, we're in this sort of, what am I doing? What is it going to be? I still need to figure out my binding. I think we're going to make a call, Beamer, make a call. Yep, rosewood for the fretboard. This piece of rosewood for the fretboard. And to help tie it together, I think I'll use it for the bridge as well. I think I will. Yeah, rosewood fretboard and bridge. Do I want to do the headstock plate with it too? Do I want to do a headstock plate at all? I'm going to have to go look at some guitars. Headstock plate or not, and binding, and rosette. Rosette. I've still got a lot of thinking about this. I'm sorry that this is delayed. Okay, so since I have not figured out my fretboard, well, I've sort of figured out, since I'm still deciding on woods, I figure one thing I can definitely do, I just realized, is I can take care of my neck. So I've got this chunk of, I believe it's 12 quarter mahogany, 10 quarter. It's 2.5 inches thick. So that would be 12 quarter. No. Yes. 4, 8, 10. 10 quarter. 12 quarter would be 3 inches thick. Derp. So it's 2.5 inches thick. Not quite wide enough for this headstock plate, but very, very close. And so what I'm going to do is rough cut out a blank for my neck. Hold on a second. So what I'm going to do is rough cut a blank for my neck. Just cut out a rough stock piece that I can use for the neck. And I need something that's about 4, let me grab, I think we'll do this with Sharpie. Sharpie's probably fine. Actually, you know what? No, chalk is going to work better. I like the chalk. Okay, so we're going to go about 4. This is really rough sawn on this side. Mapping through this board, it's kind of flat sawn in this area, and it starts to get closer to quarter sawn over here. So I'm going to try to use this bit. So we're just going to start with a mark at about 4 down here, and that was 22 inches long, which is more than I need. It actually only needs to be about 20.5, but I'm going to go to 22 so I have a little room for fudge. Everybody likes fudge, right? Fudge? What the heck is wrong with me? And 4 here, and then we can just really quickly do the 22 line there. Well, we can do this line as well over here. Then I can just, on the bandsaw real fast, slice this off right here and right here. Now, we're going to go to the bandsaw real fast, slice down this area, and then I can, actually, you know what, no, I'm going to rip it. I'm going to cross cut it first and then I'll rip it. So I'm going to get this thing all up in the vise. Yeah, we're going to have to do it this way so I can see where I'm sawing. And open it up, slide it on in. That'll be enough to saw. I'm going to switch up the camera a little bit. We'll get this going. Alright, I transferred the line around so you guys can see what I'm doing and so I can make sure I'm cutting kind of straight or square. And I'm just going to get after this with the crosscut side of this saw. This might be a bit thick for this particular saw. We'll see. Might take a little doing. I'm going to come out a little far on that side. That's okay. This is a rough cut anyway. I'm really just letting the weight of the saw do the work here too. This is going way easier than I anticipated. This is fine. This isn't going to take too long. My shoulder's a little tired, but that's okay. I can switch arms. Oop. Should be really close. We're definitely close on that side. Okay. Not bad. Now we just take it over to the bandsaw and rip that body off of there. I could probably do it with this saw. I'm not going to try it. That's a 2-foot long rip. No. I use power tools for this. Alright. We'll get some dust collection going here. Thought I had it set up. I was wrong. Let's love the dust collection. I'm going to grab earphones because I know this is going to get kind of noisy. Alright, set up on the bandsaw. I'm just going to rip off our neck blank chunk right here. And it's just that easy. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, so nowhere near straight cut on that, but that's okay. We're going to go on this side and joint that edge. And that'll become the neck face. That's where the fretboard will get glued. And then I'll draw out the rough shape, the headstock and all that stuff. So I'll bring you back after I get back from the joiner, I think. Okay, so we've jointed one face and one edge square. That's good. The next bit is I cross-cut the end. I made this end square, so it's now my square spot here for the neck joint, which actually turns out is not a square cut, but that's okay. We'll cut that at a different angle at some point. I'm working out now the headstock angle and where to mark on this so that I can rough cut out the headstock shape. So this is where the value of full-sized plans comes in very handy, because I can now just go and line this board up literally on the page, and I can see where the line disappears down here. Make a tiny little tick mark and call that my point of descent on there. So I'm going to take my square here, transfer that line up to my square face nicely. Okay. Then I'm just going to make a tiny little bitty mark here so that when I go to mark things, I'll need it. I'll need that on this face as well. Then I take my bevel gauge. I just take a square piece of stock and I put it up against the line so that I can barely see the line, because that makes it easier to hold the bevel gauge flat with the blade raised up. I have something to register against. So I just hold that, and I hold the body of the blade here nice and parallel with the other line, and then I just maneuver things in place. And I've already done this, so it's already set, but just sort of showing you how I would do this, or how I had done this in the first place. Okay, so right now we're not looking real parallel, so I'm going to check again. It's possible I've bumped myself out of alignment, so nope, there we go. Now we're good. Yeah. So what I've got is I barely see the line here all the way along, and it's parallel here. This block, I barely see the line here, and it's parallel. So with the blade against the block and the butt of the gauge against this, I know that I've replicated that angle nicely. Now all I have to do is find where that angle starts. I'm just holding it up against my square stock here. It's my square edge. And I just take where that line begins to fall off, and this is already longer than it needs to be, I think. Oh no, not quite. No, not quite. And I just start it. So I'm going to have to extend that line a little bit, but that isn't going to be a big deal. I'm just trying to get a sense of where in this block my neck is, my headstock is. And very light line here, just so I don't push anything out. And then I'm just going to take my straight edge here, and I have to get it in a position where the light does not affect my ability to see it. Okay, so that is straight off of there is where our neck. Can you even see that line? There's a line there. Here, let's see. Can you see the lines? I can't tell if you can see the line, but there's a line right here. Right here. Anyways, kind of see the line. Anyway, that is where the headstock cut goes. And I'm going to do, this plan calls for, let's see here, this plan calls for just a swept headstock plate. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do my volute like I usually do, twice, like I've done before. And so that tells me where the headstock's going to go. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is get this angle right so I can cut it. Let me give you a better view here. I'm going to make a quick cut here to get the end of this block, get this angle, because it's not square. It's close to square, but it's not quite square. So I'm going to take this, and we're going to go this route here, and I'm just going to align the butt of it against the line. I'm going to snug this just a little, and then I can put my other, I'm going to put this block against this line nicely. And I could do this with a template. I could have cut a template on the CNC just as well, but this way is a little easier. It's actually faster than trying to draw it up, come up with a G-code, mount a board to the machine, and get it cut just right. This way is actually less painful, and it's a little more into the wood kind of feel. That's pretty close. Oops, I moved. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to tighten this down and see how that repeats. Hold on. Put this block back on my line. Put the blade on the block and just slide into place. Note we're a little bit acute, or a little bit open. There we go. A little bit. There we go. There. That's beautiful. Hang on. I think my block may have moved. Check one more time. No, need to see how well that did. Oh, it's perfect now. That's beautiful. Okay, so snug that down. I'm going to go set the miter saw to this angle now. And then we'll cut a square. We'll cut it off on this side here. Okay, so I made the cut. That was kind of a boring thing anyway, so I didn't film it. I guess I should have. Sorry. Anyway, it's now cut to the proper angle. It fits snugly in these lines. The line for the headstock break is perfect. So I can now go to the bandsaw and slice this off, and then we can work on getting that nice and smooth, nice and flat. Actually, I'm going to cut it a little off the line, and then I can glue on my wings. Make sure I'm ready to do that. No, you know what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out what the heck it is I'm going to do first, and then I'm going to do that, whatever that is. All right, I've decided what I'm going to do next. I'm going to lay this out so that I can cut the outside, the underside. So we're going to get it all laid out so that I go to the bandsaw and I cut this and this all in one sort of session. Yeah, that's going to be the way we're going to do it. So this thickness, the offset from the face line to the back side is about 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a couple of marks here, about 1/2 inch. I'm basically just going for parallel off this surface, and we're definitely not going to do it at the full, we're not going to do it right at that thickness. We're going to cut it way oversized, so we're not at any risk of cutting too much off here. So now I just take the rule and put my lines together here, my dots together, connect the dots. Let's see where that one went. There it is. Okay, and I'm just going to make a quick parallel line here like that, and that gets me my headstock base. And we're at the nut here, so right around this area I'm going to mark out for my volute just a random well, actually, you know what we're going to do is I'm going to make some more marks, because there's some lines on this plan, so that will outline the thickness at 2 frets. There's one at the 1st fret and there's one at the 10th fret. So I'm going to make those marks. I'm going to carry them over to the other side, to the square side. That was too far. That's not where fret 1 lives. And this isn't precision. It looks like I'm laying out precision, but I'm just making sure I lay out in the rough general vicinity of these things so that I get them at least in the ballpark. Okay, and then we're going to transfer these to the square face. Here and here. And then I've got measurements. This one says 21 millimeters. I don't have, you know what we're going to do? And that's not thickness of the neck. That is total thickness to the fret, to the, it looks like, I assume to the peak of the fret. So we're in the 21 range, but I'm just going to measure right there at those locations, and that is at 9/16. So we're going to come in about a half, or about a 5/8 or more. Just a little heavy. Actually, let's do it this way. And we'll just do about there. And we'll go to the 10th, and the 10th fret is about 3/4 thick there. So we'll go a little heavier there on the 10th fret. And then just at the butt, we're going to say it's about 5/8. So I'm just going to come into this area and do a little more than 5/8. We'll go like almost 3/4, I think. And so then I can make a sweeping curve here. I can do a volute curve here. I'm just going to connect these two lines. Excuse me. Let's connect a couple of lines together here to basically give me guides as to how thick the fretboard will be. And just get them fully. I'm just crossing these lines together so that will work. And this basically does a curve from that thickness to the 10th fret. Basically, it's just a big old arc. So I'm just gonna rough in a curve here that will work, and it's definitely beefier than what I'll end up with. And then I'm just gonna make room for my volute, which will be right about in here and right under the nut, basically. And we'll just make a little, this is way bigger than it'll be in the end, but that gives me a little something to go on. So I don't know if you can see all of the lines, but I'll try to bring you in so you can. Okay, so I have essentially laid this out. I hope that you can see this. I'm trying to get the viewfinder so I can see if you can see. Okay, so you can see here we've got neck angle on the back side here, neck angle on the front side here, headstock angle here on the front side and the back side. This is a exaggerated volute marking, the thickness of the back of the neck here, and then this nice curve for joining where the heel goes. Hopefully you can see all of that. I'm not sure how well the pencil marks are coming out, but now we're going to go to the bandsaw, the little bandsaw, and cut all this out. Alright, we are at the bandsaw. I think we'll cut off the headstock front first so that it's as stable as it can be here. Oh, you know what I did wrong? I know what I did wrong. I have to change one tiny thing. I have flat face, jointed face, and square edge, but I don't have this parallel to this. So if I'm like this, I could be cutting off square. I don't want to do that. I'm going to take this through the drum sander real fast first, so that it's this side down, and this will get this side parallel, so that I'm going to be cutting in the right places. I will bring you back again in a moment. Okay, that was easy. That was actually much more parallel than I thought it was going to be. It took like 3 passes at most. It was very small, or maybe 4. It took very little, very few passes is what I'm trying to say. Alright, so we still got our layout lines. I'm going to pull the saw out here a little bit further so that I can make this diagonal cut as straightly as I can. So I'm not going anywhere near the line. I'm going to be at least a 1/16 off the line. And then I'll come in and move it to the line when I'm ready to. So I think I'm just going to go after this. So here's some more beautiful music. Alright, we have a neck shape. It's the first guitar shape piece we got so far. So that's all cut nice. It came out really well actually. One of the reasons I did it the way I did, and it might not have been right, but it's how I thought about doing it. It might be wrong, but I think my intentions are that this might be better or might work. Here's my thinking. I still haven't cut the truss rod slot because I figure if I'm going to pull this out of a chunk of big old slab of wood, I want to make sure it doesn't move once like specific features are necessary, like precision features that are necessary have been milled in it. I don't want to mill them and then do some operation that makes it move and then it makes those precision or necessary, like the flatness of this for the fretboard to go on. I don't want to have it move, so I figured I'd cut out the bulk of it. Let it do what's gonna. Let it cut out the bulk of it with enough room to spare. There's probably a 1/16 or so of extra thickness here, plus what I marked. So there's a lot of extra thickness. So do that. Cut it roughly close and let it do what it's going to do. Then come back and check this to make sure that it stayed flat. Right now it's nice and flat, but until it's had a chance to let it relax, I just took a big old chunk of structure out of that thing, and I hope it doesn't move too much. But if it does, we're prepared. I've got enough stock to play with. My volute area is way bulkier than it's going to end up being, but you can kind of get an idea of what we're headed for. It's going to be a guitar. Here, air, guitar, whatever, dumb. So that's that. The headstock is obviously way longer than it needs to be. What I'm going to do next, I think, is let this do what it's going to do. I'm not going to do much else to it, because I don't want to put the wings on until it's had a chance to get. The wings will go on after the truss rod slot is cut. But what I can do is I can, maybe not. Maybe I leave it alone at this point. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm done touching this thing for a little while. So that is one neck. We're going to let this move and do whatever it does, and then we'll come back to it. Yeah, I think that's safest. Cool. All right, I'll bring you back when we're ready for the next step. All right, so this is either being too frugal, I guess, or not going to matter that much, but I can't stomach, so here's what I need. For these blocks, they need to be about 4 inches wide in the plane of the sides, basically. They need to be as wide as the sides are. Problem is, this stuff is about 2.5 inches tall, so it comes up pretty short. However, I could go over there and I could cut a big old slab off of that, or a big old chunk off of that board. But I feel like I'm wasting stock doing that. I have this chunk and I'd like to use it. Is it a problem to slice this in half, put them together, and glue these two faces together? Basically do this so that they're thick enough, right? Basically do something like that. Just glue these together. Then I'll have something 3 inches thick and 5 inches wide. Yeah, about 5 inches wide, from which I can pull these two blocks. Is that glue joint a problem, is my question. I don't think it is. Does it matter that much? I don't feel like it does. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's okay. I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'm making use of this. The biggest reason is because I don't have any other use for this block of wood. And I have many uses for that original slab, so I'm trying to economize a bit here. I might find out that this is a problem and you guys yell at me, and if it is, I'll remake the blocks, but I don't think there's a big deal here. From a physics standpoint, the glue joint's going to be stronger than the wood. They're very basic blocks. I mean, they're the direct line to the tone, but as long as I don't get any gaps, especially the head block up by the neck, by the sound hole where the neck joins, that block is very vital to the instrument sound, I think, and it needs to be solid. So as long as I can make sure that I don't make a bad glue joint, I don't think it's going to be a big deal here. As long as it's a good glue joint. A lamination should not be an issue. It's one glue joint. I can't imagine that being a big sound problem. You guys let me know if I'm making a mistake. Hopefully I'm not gluing this into the body by the time you see this video, which will be in 6 days because I haven't shot any other video. So I probably won't be too far along. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to lop off a couple of chunks that will get me a wide enough piece, because the grain has to run this way. The grain has to run like this inside the body of the guitar. Yeah, so I'm going to glue this block up for the head and tail blocks. Alright, so I made a couple of cuts, got a couple of pieces that we're going to use, got a bit of glue, and so these are the pieces that came out. I'm just going to fold them like this so that the glue lines are in a triangle shape, so I think that's a good idea. I don't know, but it seems like a good idea. And then we'll just put some glue on this surface here. And we'll smush it around. Try to keep it from migrating too much. Just get a lot of spread here. Sometimes your workpieces are excellent glue spreaders, all in their own rights. There's a lot of glue there. I'm gonna have some squares out, but you can guarantee there will be no voids. Well, I think I can guarantee it. I don't know if it's true, but I am going to try very hard not to get any voids. Now, just push these guys so that they mash together just nicely. And ensure that they stay pretty darn square to each other. There we go, and the squeeze out game begins. Alright, it has been a while, and this inordinate clamping situation can be removed. So these little blocks here, they need to be oriented in this way. And I will get... No, they don't get oriented this way. They get oriented... Yeah, they do get oriented this way. Okay, that's right. This way. Because that's the 4-inch. Yerp. No, this is the 4-inch. Alright, I'm going to grab this one out of this side, and then whatever's left I'll use to make that. Okay, so I need this face reasonably true. It's not bad right now, but I'm going to make it a bit better. We'll do that over on the belt sander. Okay, so we're set now to get the 2 blocks out of this that we want. One is 3/4 or so thick, I think. Let me double check that. Measurement. Let's go, oh, it's actually more than 3/4. Let's go with 7/8. So I'm going to just set my fence here. That's too far. Do 7/8, and we'll slice off a bit, and then we'll do whatever needed to get the last bit out of it. I think we can get it out of these 2 things here. So, let's make sure we're doing this right. Yes, 4 inches tall, 3/4 thick, 80 millimeters wide. All right, a little bit of noisiness time. Alright, so this piece, 3/4 inch thick, goes over here. This piece is 1.5 inches thick, goes over here, and is way wider than we need, so we're going to do some cross cutting here now. So I'm going to set up first. I just need to get something reasonably close. I'm going to go over to the table saw. We'll use the miter gauge to take care of these little guys. We'll just get one end square, and then we'll cut them to width. Okay, set up on the table saw. First thing I'm going to do, drop that blade, is rip them to roughly 4 inches wide, because a little over 4 is fine. Like, we'll do like 4 1/8. That gives me the size I need with them slightly oversized. They're just a bit over. It's enough room to fine tune them when they get into the guitar. We're going to really quickly switch out our dust collection situation here, and then I'll get after cutting it. Alright, here we are. Okay, now we can cross cut these little guys. Get to my miter gauge here, and this one we'll just pick. Doesn't really matter now, so we'll just pick a spot and slice this one, and then we'll measure it for width afterwards. Okay, now we got 2 that are perfectly the right width I want. Now, or square in the right size, and then we're going to do a really quickly. This one, the skinny one's going to be 80 millimeters in this direction. Oh, you can't see. 80 millimeters this way. So I'm just going to make a real quick mark that gets us in that vicinity. So 80 is there. So let's go. Yeah, let's just go like this, and we'll mark it here. Do right around in there. If I take the line, we're about right. Yep, that'll do. And this one is about 70, right? Yeah. And we're going to have it this side down. We'll come from this side. We'll do 70. Okay. So now if we just take the lines, we'll be in good shape. I did it wrong. No, I didn't. I did it right. Whew. Scared myself. I didn't do it wrong. Okay, these are cut. Alright, the plans call for a couple of bevels cut to lap these corners off at 45. It basically leaves 1.5 inches in the center. So what I've done is I've tilted the blade to 45, and I'm just going to move the fence over here a little bit at a time. Maybe about there first, and I'll run it through both ways. Then I'll check the width of that facet that's in the center until and I'll just keep moving the fence over until I hit 1.5 inches. So, more dust collection and noise. Here we go. All right, that's perfect. That is our shape now. Let's double check that width. 70 millimeters. A little over 4 inches in width, 1.5 inches there, yeah, and thickness is about 1.5 inches, but I'm going to be radiusing the back of this, so what I'll do is I'll radius it until it reaches that critical dimension. This one gets them too. I forgot about that. This little plank gets some too, so I'm going to do the same thing, but the width of the bevel is a little different. Alright, so we've done the basic block shaping. Now we can do the curves on the back of these because they match the curves of the body. So I'm just going to line these up on the pattern, and with a very sharp pencil mark on the side the line where it goes in, and do the same on this side. What I figure I will do is I'm just going to throw this in the vise and plane away at it until I figure it's close. It's a very shallow curve, so I'm just going to scoot stuff over this way so I have some room for the planing, and I'm just going to push it against this every once in a while and just see how it does, how close I got. Alright, a little bit of sanding. Check them, make sure they're straight, of course, too, because they got to be. The whole idea is that the mating surface on this is really, really good for the sides, because this is basically what's falling. This is basically what's holding the whole dang thing together. These little blocks, the sides going into these blocks, really does a lot of the work. Okay, let's check it for the straightness. Oh yes, very good. Oh yes. Yeah, I can live with those. That one's good. Let's do this one. Alright, that one's been cleaned up nicely and should make a very good glue joint for when the sides get put on there. Now, that covers this block here. And it covers this block here. The only thing left really are the plate, which is going to be rosewood, the plate for the bridge, the plate the bridge pins go into right here. And then there's some cross bits that'll strengthen the sound hole. But I'll do those once I have the sound hole and I start putting the bracing on. I'll just do those at that time. So that's it for some of the internal components. So this should be wider than my side is. It are. And way wider on this side. So Okay, I'm gonna sneeze. Hoo-wee. And then I think that's it for the day. I think we're gonna call it. Yeah, it's 5. It's late enough. So what we got done was the neck shaping, the heel and toe block, and that's pretty. Oh, and we've decided rosewood fretboard, rosewood bridge. Probably a rosewood headstock overlay. I think it's just going to be all rosewood up front. Yep. Well, now I just still have to decide on binding, whether I'm going to bind the fretboard, whether I'm going to bind the headstock plate, what kind of binding we're going to use on the body, and rosette. I need to decide that fairly quickly, but I did manage to get some stuff done, so I feel good about that. All right. Until next week. Go make it.